I hope everyone's doing fine. Today, we'll continue the Ibrahim series where we delved into the life of Ibrahim, the wisdoms we can draw out of it, and many, many other things. Alhamdulillah, our brother Zaid went into deep details about that. He can give a better summary than me. But we will start off by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us such an opportunity to speak of His blessed Prophet, to speak on the behalf of the Ummah, and to teach the Ummah this this blessing. It is, I say it's a blessing because the life of a prophet is something special, it's something unique. It's not like our life or your life, you know. My life or your life, it's nothing like it. It's filled to the brim with wisdom. It's filled to the brim with something that we can all benefit from. And it's filled to the brim with qualities that we all are obligated to follow. The prophets are given a status by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which is greater than anything else, greater than a scholar, greater than a martyr, greater than any human being, the president, the king. A prophet is something which is so, so, so special. And by following their example, by following their life, we can attain a similar status. Not the same status exactly, a similar status because we're obligated to follow their path to become like them. We are obligated to become their followers and to obey them in matters. Right? Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, "Ati Allah wa ati Rasul," multiple places throughout. Right? Like an example, we have in Surah Anfal where Allah Azza wa Jal says يسألونك على الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين. Hold on a second, let me just pull up the translation. Allah says, they ask you, O Prophet, about the bounties of war. Say the decision concerning the bounties is for Allah and His Messenger. So fear Allah and amend which is between you and obey Allah and His Messenger if you should be believers. Right after that, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. The believers are only those who, when Allah is mentioned, meaning the verses of the Quran, the Hadith, or anything in relation to Allah Azza wa Jal, their hearts become fearful. And when His verses are recited to them, it increases them in faith upon their Lord, they rely. Right? And Allah Azza wa Jal speaks mostly about Ibrahim. He mentions Ibrahim by name, and I mean not Ibrahim, Musa by name, and then after that there's these different prophets. But by far there is a prophet which is very unique out of all the prophets except the Prophet ﷺ excluding him. What is very special about the Prophet Ibrahim ﷺ is because he's given the title of a Khalil, a friend of Allah. Right? A friend of Allah. Imagine being the friend of your creator. Imagine Allah Azza wa Jal Himself giving you that title. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He gave Ibrahim many prophets in his lineage. We have Ismail, Ishaq, and even the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam in his lineage. Right? And the Jews and the Christians speak about Ibrahim. These major faiths, and everyone knows about Ibrahim. But Islam portrays Ibrahim in a pure manner. Islam does not say he was a sinner. Islam gives him the status of our father. Islam commands us to respect him. And Islam tells us to mention his name in our salah, in our most loved act, in our most important act. This is what Islam encourages about Ibrahim. And this lesson, we've drawn this wisdom about Ibrahim. And inshallah, I think my brother Zayd is going to take over. He's going to give you more blessings about Ibrahim. And also, one more thing before I leave. Allah Azza wa Jal ordained upon us different responsibilities. Allah is the most wise, and He will never give us a task which is impossible. He will never give us a task which is impossible. And thereby, if Allah Azza wa Jal gives you the status or the responsibility of a son, a daughter, a father, or whatever it is most important that we follow and honor this role. Right? We do our best to fulfill the obligations Allah Azza wa Jal gave us. And without a doubt, Ibrahim was a father, and he had a son, Ismail and Ishaq. So we're going to look from both perspectives. The responsibility, the wisdom, and the status of a father, how the importance of a father, also what a son or a daughter must do to respect their father. Because nowadays, people have neglected the status of fatherhood. They don't care whether or not you're a father, a mother, a son, or daughter. They will violate you no matter what. Right? The son and daughters are no longer obeying their parents. They don't give they don't give any attention to their parents. Although Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran to not even say oof to the parents. Even if they become old, we're obligated to take care of them, to respect them, to speak to them softly. This is what Islam obligates. And inshallah, our brother Zayd is going to take over half the Ghana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you guys hear me? If you guys can hear me, just react to message up on the side chat. So I know that you guys are paying attention. Yeah, perfect. أعوذ بالله أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. First and foremost, we start this session by praising the creator of the heavens and the earth, who allowed such a gathering to take place, who allowed everything that you know and that you do not know to happen. Because without the creator, none of us would have been here. Without the creator, none of us would have been guided, and without the creator, none of us would have the darkness in our life being taken away. And without the creator, our heart would not have been filled with the light and love for Allah Azza wa Jal. So we start this session by praising the creator and sending salutations on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of creations to ever walk the earth, the best of creations, the man who stood up in night prayer, praying for the ummah when we were not in the world, the very man that we aim to follow through different stories. And when we talk about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of creations, we always remember his lineage, his honorable and noble lineage from which he came from. The lineage so grand and so powerful, because a prophet's lineage is very important. Because a prophet comes from an honorable lineage. An honorable person, a noble person must come from a noble lineage, because the person will inherit the qualities of the people who were before them. And we'll be touching on this later in today's session, inshallah. And if you trace back the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will reach a point where everything would connect to one man, to one person whose name is known far and wide, whose very story that we will be discussing today. The man of true monotheism, the man of strength, the man of resilience, the man who stood against oppression coming from his own family, the man who lost many things but still remained focus on the creator no matter what happens. A man who's able to shun his emotions, to use his rationality to do the things that you and I cannot do normally. And this man is not just any man, not just a man of strength or a man of patience. He was a logician, he was a strategist, and he was also a great son. And not only a great son, he was also a great member of a community. He was a member of society. He was a man who stood against oppression. He was an amazing husband, amazing traveler, an amazing role model for people, and an amazing uncle, and overall an amazing father. And that aspect is what we will be discussing today. However, before we go on, I want to bring your attention to a very specific verse, a very beautiful verse, because everything that we learn about Ibrahim alayhi salam, or Musa alayhi salam, or Isa, or Zakaria, or Yahya alayhi salam, may Allah be pleased with them all, Whatever we learn from them, there's always a deeper wisdom that we fail to understand, that we wish to understand, but sometimes we can't. And have you ever come across a time where you looked at a story of a prophet or a specific man mentioned in the Quran or in the Sunnah, and you were in awe? You felt amazed by the story. You felt it being so connected to you, so related to you. Sometimes it brings you to tears, and sometimes that very story is the very thing that gives you salvation when all you know is hardship and pain and toughness and everything, when everything goes wrong in your life. The reason to this, the reason behind this, we find it in an amazing verse, the final verse of Surah Yusuf. Allah Azza wa Jal says, لقد كان في قصصهم عبرة لأولي الألباب ما كان حديثا يفترى ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه وتفصيل كل شيء وهدى ورحمة لقوم يؤمنون. The translation goes, is a beautiful translation, is a beautiful verse. The Allah says, there was certainty in their stories. There was certainly in these stories, in their stories, a lesson for those of understanding. Never was the Quran a narration invented, but a confirmation of what was before it, and a detailed explanation of all things and guidance and mercy for people who believe. It is a detailed explanation in so many ways, because the normal stories that we learned when we were children, when we were told the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we never looked at in a manner that we look at the story right now. We just learned the story. We never bothered to look over the wisdom. But behind every story, behind every word, every letter in the Quran, and every moment in the stories of the prophets, there is wisdom that we are to understand. And that is so special because even if you learn everything in this series, 20 years from now on, or the very next day, or even the day before your death, you will discover new wisdom, new beauty behind these stories, right? And that is the beauty that I want you guys to understand. And as we go on to understand a story among the stories, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we're going to discover a story inside the story, a story of fatherhood, a story of parenthood, a story of sacrifice inside the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this story is so vast. And in every session that we have, we have kind of a tradition. Now we will be discussing two main concepts. So any concept that is related to that particular event, that series, that episode, and then we go into the story. So what do you think the concept for today is? It is not a concept. I'll take it back. These two are not concepts. These two are emotions and feelings. These two are art. This is an art that if you master, you will definitely become a person of understanding. This is reality. And the first among them is complete and ultimate submission to the creator of the heavens and the earth. And the second one is parenthood, most importantly, fatherhood. But we're going to make related to the mother as well, so you guys may understand whatever you can, inshallah, from this. So to understand submission, it is not just praying or just doing your ibadah. It is not doing the obligations. Submission is an emotion that you feel every single moment in your life. Submission is you knowing that there is a creator out there. Submission is an emotional journey. It begins with each step. Because when you submit, you have this yearning to please the creator even more, and that gives you discipline. It gives you purpose and it gives you understanding life. And most importantly, it is a quest. Yeah, it is a quest for meaning, and you aim to seek connection. Give me a second, I have to speak up below. Okay, anyways, so in this journey of submission, Your main purpose is to strengthen your connection that you have with your creator. And while you do so, you strengthen the connection that you have with yourself. Because there is a popular figure from the early Salaf, a righteous individual who said, if you know yourself, you know your creator. If you know your creator, you know yourself. What does this mean? We're not going to go into much depth about this, but put it simple. If you know yourself, you know your creator. If you know your creator, you know you. Because in order to know yourself, you must understand the creator. And to understand the creator, you submit to him. So being connected, emotionally connected to your creator automatically gives you a framework that you can use to discover things about yourself that you never knew. Because through submission, the doors that were locked in your heart and your mind, your soul will be opened for you. It is a place that you can truly discover things about you, things about the world, about the universe that you never knew. It is a constant feeling that you know that the presence of God is always there. Yeah, it is a feeling that offers you comfort, offers you guidance, and it offers you a sense of belonging in this world where your identity is trying to be stripped off from you, right? And because the interesting part about this is let's take a moment to stop and reflect. Right. In this world that we live in today, your identity is gonna they try your best. Society tries their utmost best to strip your identity and your life away from you, right? Islam, it gives you a sense of belonging in a world that is so dark and broken. The more you the more you lose yourself, Islam gives you that sense of belonging and that sense of truly finding yourself. And I'm not gonna waste more time on this, we're gonna continue. Right? And so this is what I want you to understand, because submission to the God, to the Creator, is not just doing your ibadah or doing anything. Rather, it is an emotional connection. If you don't feel an emotional connection to the Creator, then you have not completely submitted to your Lord. And what is the solution for this? Okay, what if I pray every single day, but I still don't feel an emotional connection to the Creator? What happens to me when I don't feel this way? The solution is simple. Keep doing the acts of ibadah. Keep submitting yourself. Because even if you don't feel the emotion right now, force yourself into submission and give yourself time. Because through submission and through time, you will discover things about yourself you never did. Because submission and time, it goes hand in hand. What do I mean by this? Because the more you submit, the more you understand yourself. Because let's look at this: submission and doing ibadah and truly bringing yourself to love the Creator, it requires time. Nothing is going to happen overnight. Because through time and through patience, you find you get all of these you find the context. Through time and emotion and patience, you find the context, and through context you get dimensions, and through dimensions you find meaning, and through finding meaning you are going to unlock things that you never did before. Because even if you look at the Quran was not revealed at once. Rather, it was revealed in time periods. There were different time periods. And Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anh, if I'm not mistaken, he makes an amazing statement: to understand the tafsir of the Quran, to understand the Quran, you need time. You need time. Look at the verse, go do your thing, and come back to the same verse. Because the verse may hit you, but it may not give you that feeling, because you might need to go through something in your life for that verse to truly hit you. So keep this in mind. Submission and time, it goes hand in hand. Without time, you can't submit. Because you need to know context, you need to find meaning. And before we move on to parenthood, there's something I want you guys to know. Every human being, we are thirsty. We have a thirst in us. No, it's no hunger, rather, we have a thirst. But oftentimes, we do not know what we are thirsty for. And we do not know the drink or the substance which will quench our thirst. Oftentimes, it is a spiritual thirst that we need, that we long for something, and the longing we do not understand. And people try to find different meanings. different things for them to quench their thirst. By the end of the day, if you quench your thirst with the love of Allah Azza wa Jal, then every other thirst and hunger that you have, it will be solved, it will be quenched. Maybe some people are hungry, you never know. Hungry for the next big thing. But that's a topic for different day. And since we covered submission, but before we move on, I want you guys to understand. Do you understand the concepts that I discussed with you so far? If you do, I want you to react to the message inside chat, so I know that you guys are up to date. Okay. Now, okay, let's move on. Now we move on to the main part, the main concept for today, and that is parenthood. But why did I discuss submission before parenthood? Because parenthood is submission itself. It is submission to the Creator. Because parenthood is not just a blessing, rather it is a responsibility that is given to you, and this responsibility can be a blessing or a burden depending on your foundations. It is some sort of submission to the Creator. So if your foundation is built on proper and true and pure submission, then everything that you're gonna do and is gonna manifest in submission in it's gonna manifest in your parenthood, your actions and stuff like this. But what about Islamic parenthood? There's a difference between normal parenthood and Islamic parenthood. People might okay, I'm going to make a distinction between parenthood and normal parenthood, because we're going to make a distinction between normal parenthood and secular parenthood. Secular parenthood influenced by secularistic ideologies and such. But we're going to focus on Islamic parenthood. Why is it important? Because Islamic parenthood is not just a concept, as I said, rather it is a journey, because it is an ever-growing journey where in parenthood you will learn things about your child, your partner, and yourself that you did not know. There will be things you will discover, things about yourself you never knew before. Because I know for a fact there are people who were governed by anger. Right? Before they got married, before they had children, they were governed by anger. They could not do anything. But when they had a child, the child humbled the person. It humbled him, and no longer the person could feel anger anymore, because the person felt, if I feel anger, then my child would copy and imitate the anger that I have. It will affect my family. So rather, marriage and parenthood is something that will truly humble you to the core, and you will change things about yourself that you never thought that you would change, all for the better, if it's done right. So Islamic parenthood, as I said, is a journey. It is about, basically the main purpose is to nurture young people and their hearts and their souls. And it is definitely about creating a very loving and a very supportive environment where you teach people, number one, compassion. Before compassion, you teach them about Islam, and through Islam, you teach them compassion. Because if you do not instill this foundational belief of Islam in the child's very early days, it's going to affect them for years to come. Only few years you're going to instill this into their hearts, but it's going to affect them for years to come. And some of the Salaf, they have amazing statement that they made, is that I think it was Imam Malik. Yes, Imam Malik makes a statement that the Salaf, right, they used to teach their children two things before they like they used to teach them the surah of the Quran. So they gave priority to teaching the children Quran, right? Quran and Hadith and all of this stuff, but they gave the same priority for something else. Do you guys know what it means, right? Uh, so what is this thing? Two things, and the thing that Imam Malik talks about is the Salaf used to teach their children how to love the Sahaba, just like they used to teach them how to love the Quran. Sahaba and the Prophets. And Imam Malik goes further and he makes a distinction on which Sahaba they used to teach their children to. And the Sahaba is definitely the first Caliph, As-Siddiq, Abu Bakr As-Siddiq and Umar Al-Faruq. May Allah be pleased with them all. So this is what the Salaf used to do. This is their parenthood, their style of parenting. Always instill this foundation, because through this they will learn. Because something that we see today, if you look at children today, what is go-to parenthood? YouTube. nursery rhymes, and you have all these modern day role models, quote unquote role models for them to learn from. What if you replace that portion with the stories of the Sahabas and the Prophets? Your child will inherit wisdom way before you ever thought that they could. Because the thing that you teach them at a very early age, it impacts their entire life. Because there are people, parents who taught their children to pray, and they made it in a way that they had the people, they had the child lead prayer. It's not actually prayer, it's an imitation. And due to that, they fell in love with Islam. However, down the line, they deviated. They were deluded by society and dunya. But what happened was, due to this parenting style of Islam being taught to them and they loving Islam, what happened was, somehow along the line, they always had this thought and this feeling that what they were doing is wrong. And that was enough for them to come back. And now they are one of the most righteous people. So even if you go through a commercial break, I would say, a commercial break from your mainstream belief, that is where you explore different things, and that is of faith. And throughout this period, if you instill a good parenting style about Islam, it'll always play on their mind, and it will definitely uh, allow them to come back to Islam. And I'm not telling this from my own mind, or it's not an imagination. Wallahi, this is the truth. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. Right? It's the truth. And if you don't believe that, Allah Alam, Allah knows best. And going back to the topic, now many things about parenthood as well. It is about showing them love and compassion. It is about being kind to them. And we will discuss this in detail when we look at the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, a beautiful story, really a story that brings me to tears to this day. And let's take a look at modern society today. So if when society or your children, your family is void of Islamic parenting, and it is filled with secular parenting, there's something that happens. And the very thing that happens is that secular parenting, it has one ideology alone. Every action that it does, it goes back to one ideology alone. And what is that? Islamophobia, in some way, shape, or form. So modern secular parenting, it teaches people to go against Islam. And due to the, especially in Islamic households, Muslim households, due to the secularistic parenting style being used, the rate of Muslims apostating and the rate of Islamophobia in Muslim households keep on increasing, right? So you see today, many people who come to us in this server, many murtads, there are many apostates. What is the reason? The entire family are Muslims, but they have not been taught this Islamic parenting from an early age. They've always been used the secular parenting, and even if Islam is taught to them at an early age, the parenting style was not sufficient. It was not the parenting style that the best of creation sallallahu alaihi wasallam used. Nor was it the parenting style that the second best of creation, alayhi salam, the man of monotheism, the man that we will discuss today, is not his style that's being used as well. But what is the style that I'm talking about? We will discover later, inshallah. And the most important part is that the parents is very important for a child's life. And we're going to discuss what's going to happen if the parent is absent as well. But now, what is the solution for all of this? What is the solution for everything? Every hardship, every problem that I discussed today? Solution is simple, but we often fail to understand, and that is Islamic principles and values. In a world that we are taught that Islamic principles and values are only meant for a period of time and that is expired, it is about time that we stand up and educate ourselves and our children and our young ones and our partners and all these people, that the values in Islam, the ethics, the morality, and the principles that have been taught to us are timeless. It is comprehensive. It is holistic in regard to all of life's experiences. And it impacts your challenges that you face in your life. It is a very cure, cure for the hardship that we go through today. So it is important, is very important. I'm sure that some scholars say it is obligatory for a married couple to educate themselves about Islamic parenting. If they don't, then they're gonna cause a generational curse, which we're gonna walk through a bit later today, inshallah. So is that understood so far what I discussed? I want to make sure that you guys are up to date. If it is, then react to the start message, inshallah. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Okay, now we talked about Islamic parenting. All of its, is what is it, what it is in its essence and its emotions. But what about the consequences of the absence of Islamic parenting? Yeah, what about the consequences? It is amazing. No, it's amazing. It is profound to see that to see the consequences using our own very eyes today. Because if we look around, you don't need to look around. Just go onto YouTube, just go onto Instagram, just go onto TikTok, and you will see it firsthand. A child abusing their own parent, a child murdering their own parent for money, for materialistic gains, a child selling out their parents for something. And I'll tell you a story. There once was a man, there once was a boy, a very young boy, that a person knew back in the day. He was a strong Muslim, a strong believer, but one day he deviated. And when that person talked to this person who deviated, he was so corrupt in the mind because they used to live in a land, there's a country where they try to take Muslim children away from their parents, right? And especially parents of people from the Middle East, right? So what happened was, it was so crazy and astonishing to see. The moment I found out about this, I wondered there was something wrong about this kid that we're talking about. And the moment that I heard about this, we were lost to words. I was lost to words. So what happened? And we talked to that person. When the people talked to that person, why did you apostate? No, apostate. Why did you deviate? What is wrong with you? The person said, you know how the people in my country, the police, they come and they take children away from their parents. You know that issue? They said, yeah. They said, yeah. And he said, believe it or not, but I called the cops on my own parents and I had the cops take me away from my parents and I had the cops arrest my parents. Why? Because I didn't like them. I didn't like Islam. I didn't like my culture. What the hell is this? A'udhu billah. Like, actually, what the hell is this? We live in such a world today where people, children call the cops on their own parents because they don't like Islam being fed to them. And that is the influence of the West. Moving on about some of the consequences. I think we discussed Islamophobia, so I'm not going to go much into it. But as I mentioned, Islamic parenting, it is the very first thing that a person must learn. Because if Islamic parents are absent from the life of young children, what's going to happen to them? Let's take off the emotional impact. Let's take off the mental impact. Let's take off the physical impact, and let's focus on the spiritual aspect for 1 second. I'm going to draw your attention to the spiritual aspect. What is it? Because without Islamic parents, without Muslim parents, without this parenting technique, there is a huge risk of the child feeling spiritual emptiness from a young age. And when the child faces spiritual emptiness from a young age, what's going to happen to that child is that when they grow on, they always search for something. They will always be thirsty, but they won't find anything that can quench their thirst. They'll always affect them, so they will always try to go for different beverages to quench their thirst. They might go into the beverage of atheism, the beverage of Christianity, the beverage of LGBTQ, the beverage of destroying themselves, the beverage of suicide. There's always a spiritual emptiness, and this spiritual emptiness knowingly or unknowingly affects them, but they do not know. Because the heart, it yearns for connection, it yearns for a feeling of love, and if it is not given in an Islamic sense to a person at a very young age, material success becomes the person's very number one goal, and inner peace gets destroyed. What happens then? They lack the resilience. They lack the strength that is needed to face live storms and tornadoes and whatever you may throw it at them, right? And the ethics and morality, it changes as well. They lose their identity. They break their faith. They break their mental state to a point where they don't understand anymore, right? And the very spiritual yearning for purpose and peace, it might lead them to murder. Because most of the people you see today, the reason they murder, they come up with a different reason, trauma, past trauma, etc. But in reality, the very reason that made them murder, that made them choose, because some people murder, when you ask them, when you question them, when you interrogate them, they will tell you, I do not know what I did, why I did this. I think I wanted to murder someone because they did something wrong to me, but I forgave them a long time ago, so why did I murder them? Islam has the answer. Spiritual emptiness. You did not have Islam. You were not drunk on the love for Allah Azza wa Jal. So therefore you did all of this stuff. So you were banished into immorality. Do you guys understand that point so far? If you do, so then just react, inshallah. Okay. Now we're going to cover one small aspect. One small aspect before we move on to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And that is they're going to walk through the life of the emotions of a man or a woman that loses the parents. Okay, they had Islamic parenting while they were growing up, but most importantly, they lose their parents, right? What happens to a person when they lose the very people that taught them love and kindness and peace and everything, the very people that prepared them to face society's storms? What's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to you and I if we lose our parents? Or maybe there are people who lost our parents and we're still surviving. To the people in this stage or whoever is listening to this recording, if you're a person who lost your family, you lost your parents, I understand the pain that you're going through. I understand you to personal level. And I know what's going on, right? But that yearning that you feel right now, channel it before it's too late. Channel it in a sense that you can use it to benefit the people for the best, benefit the ummah for the best. If your parents could not be there for you at such times that you needed it the most, then you take the step and you be there for the people when they need it the most. Islam is so profound. Make a person smile and you get rewarded. Is there any other religion, any other faith that preaches such a doctrine? Is an open challenge. No, no, not as simple and easy as Islam. Moving on. Let's take a look at the life. I think this is a story. I'm going to tell you guys a story about the person. A real story, I think. Not sure if it's real or uh, metaphorical, but I want you to understand what you can from this. So, a person, when he loses his family and his parents, what happens at that moment is whatever you loved, you start to hate. It becomes a series of moments where you're constantly reminded of what's going to happen next, where anxiety takes over you. It keeps reminding you of your solitary journey that lies before you. In the daily life, in the routine of daily life that you used to do, a simple task such as making a meal becomes hard for you because whenever you're going to make your meal, you remember your mother and your father who used to make the very meal for you. Or when you're making the meal and you hurt yourself, your mother who used to help you and your father who used to give you advice. You remember the scoldings of your mother and father. When moments like this, you start to value what you lost. You feel like they're beside you, but in reality, you feel like they're beside you, but not beside you at the same time. You lose meaning, but sometimes when time passes by, and I mentioned that with time you find context, and with context you find dimensions, and through dimensions you find meaning. Sooner or later, this emotion or this feeling of loneliness soon becomes a feeling of comfort if your heart is strong. You feel like your parents are everywhere you go and you get a feeling of comfort. You get drunk on their love for the love for the parents, or most importantly, you get drunk on the love for Allah Azza wa Jal. And no matter what you do or how far time passes by, the absence of your parents or those who care for you, it will leave a void in your heart that no matter what you do, no matter the amount of distraction or busyness can ever fill. It is something that always bring you down. And it is not only an emotional feeling, nor is it a mental feeling, but it's also a physical feeling, because it is a tightness that you feel in your chest. Your chest becomes tight, and when your chest becomes tight, your arms fall weak and your legs fall to the ground. And the things I used to do, you can't do anymore, and you don't want to do it anymore. You don't want to get up from your bed or your sofa, whatever it is. It is the ache in your heart, in your mind, of knowing that the people that loved you unconditionally and who you loved unconditionally are no longer there to take care of you. Because verily, your parents are the only people who will want to see you happy and smile. It doesn't matter if every have an entire army beside you, none of them will want the same happiness for you other than your parents. And you realize this so many times. And looking at other people and their parents and they're living happily, it breaks you down. But what is the cure for this? Cure for this. It is the cure for this is Islam itself. Because in Islam, separation is just and death is just a temporary separation. This is just the person who died is beating you to the next destination. Separation is just unity, and that's why death is unity through separation, unity through your mind, unity through emotions, and overall unity in the next life. And that is the beauty of Islam. Islam makes the hardest of things attractive and beautiful to you. And I don't want to take too much. I think we talk too much. We're going to come back to the main points of parenting that Ibrahim alayhi salam used, but let's go to the story aspect. So everything I said the clear so far to you. Or is there anything that is a react if you can on this one? Make sure that you guys are in, because today's session is very important. Oh, I think it's one of my favorite topics sessions so far. Give me a second. Okay. So in the last episode, we left off in a very specific area. We left off with Ismail alayhi salam and Hajar alayhi salam in the barren desert with the company of Bani Jurh. But now time passes by, moments turn into seconds and into days and into months, and soon the young child Ismail alayhi salam soon becomes a man of independence, a man who can do things on his own. And soon this very man is going to be called for a mission so grand, a mission so honorable that we remember it today. It impacted society or life until, or humanity and mankind until the day of judgment. But before that, before the blessing, there's always a period of testing and trials. In order to get the blessings, you need to go through trials. The story goes as such. Ismail Islam grew older, and the land that was barren and old and lonely soon starts to flourish, and it is full of life now with Bani Jurham. And when Ismail salam reaches an age where he can walk, Ibrahim salam, he comes, they visit Ismail salam and they reunite. The young child and the father reunite. So this is what I want you to focus on today, the child and the father, the dialogue between the two. When the father reunites with the child, what happens at the moment is it was a beautiful moment of reunion. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he longed for a child for 80 years, and after 80 years he was given a child. And after he was given a child, when Ismail alayhi salam was a young suckling baby, Allah ordered Ibrahim alayhi salam to separate from Ismail alayhi salam. Where imagine waiting 8 years for a child only to get the commandment that you have to separate from your child for until the child reaches the age where he can walk. If you think that is too hard, guess what is about to happen next? And then Ibrahim alayhi salam, he comes to Ismail alayhi salam and he tells Ismail alayhi salam, as mentioned in the Quran, فلما بلغ معه السعي قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام عني يذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى. And when Ismail alayhi salam reached an age where he can walk alongside his father, Ibrahim alayhi salam comes to him and says, Ya Bunay, oh my dear son. He didn't call him oh son or Ismail or the person who is inferior to me, but the first thing that he said was, Ya Bunay, oh my dear son. The title of today's video, today's event. He said, oh my dear son, indeed I have seen in a dream where I sacrifice you. And it means that I must sacrifice you. So, Ya Ismail, oh my dear son, again, tell me what you think. There is so much wisdom that we can take from this part of the verse alone. The verse is not completed. From this part of the verse alone, there's something that we can take. Number one, when the father approached the child, this is for all of you. I want you to listen. Whenever you have a child or someone comes to you, a young person, whenever you approach them like how Ibrahim alayhi salam did. Ya bunay, oh my dear son. Whenever he talked to his son, the first word he said is a word that comforts the young child and makes the child fall in love with the person who's telling it to them. Address them in a loving way. Show them love, and you will be shown love back, because the child inherits or copies the parent. And then the other thing is, Ibrahim alayhi salam said, oh my dear son, before he revealed the big news, he gave some comfort and love and relief to Ismail alayhi salam. So when the big message reaches Ismail alayhi salam, when it's being delivered, Ismail alayhi salam he's already calm about it. So it won't affect the child much. It will reduce the effect. Such was psychology, such was the mind of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the man of monotheism. And then he described the issue. He said, oh my dear son, I saw in my dream that I must sacrifice you. The next verse is a beautiful part of this part of the verse. So tell me, what do you think? You can have said, oh my son, I saw in a dream that I must sacrifice you, so let's go and let's cut you up. You have no choice, you're submitting to me, I am the father, you listen to me right now, and we go and sacrifice you. No buts, no coconuts, nothing. But what did he do? He said, what do you think? Tell me what you think, Ismail. And this is a great lesson of parenthood, because one thing that leads to success of the child is to involve the child in decision making. Let the child think. Even if you make a decision, even if you're firm on a decision, give the child a space to think about it. Don't shut the doors on your child. Open the doors for your child to think and grow as a person, right? And that is what he did. So he gave Ismail alayhi salam time to think. That is the most beautiful part of this part of the world. And this is because in this verse we see a noble father and a noble child. Because and when Ibrahim alayhi salam said this, look at how Ismail alayhi salam said. Because we understood how a father communicates with his child or must communicate with his child. There's no buts about this. But let's see how a child must communicate with the father or the mother. And Ismail alayhi salam says, قال يا عبد افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Ismail alayhi salam said, "O my dear father, do as you commanded, and you will find me, if Allah wills, on the steadfast, among the steadfast, among the patients." Look at the psychology. Ibrahim alayhi salam said, "O my dear son, comforted the heart." And since he comforted the heart of the child, now the child feels an obligation to comfort the heart of the father who came with love. Because a child is influenced by what the parent says. So if you go with love, they will give you love back. So therefore Ismail said, "Oh my dear father." He matches Ibrahim in his words. "Oh my dear son, oh my dear father." Beautiful. And then Ismail says, as young as he says, "Do as you are commanded. And if Allah wills, you will find me among the patient and the steadfast." Okay, now you might wonder, okay, let's take a moment, let's pause. How is a child telling his father to cut him up, to sacrifice him? How? The solution is simple, and that is what we covered earlier today. Islamic parenting is what got Ismail alayhi salam to do it. Other than the fact that he's a prophet, right? Other than the fact, because how did the parenting come? Because Ibrahim alayhi salam disappeared from the picture. So who was there to parent him? The mother, Hajar alayhi salam. And if you want to learn about Hajar alayhi salam and Sarah alayhi salam for the female, there's an event going to happen very soon on the lives of Hajar alayhi salam and Sarah alayhi salam. Beautiful event. You can check it out, inshallah. It's going to happen very soon. So due to this, what happened? It was easy for Ismail alayhi salam, right, to accept and to agree, and that is what you will find. Instill Islamic parenthood at an early age, you will find your child submitting to you. And then after this was agreed, so Ismail alayhi salam was ready. He prostrated. In fact, like prostrating, and because some scholars say he was prostrating for multiple reasons. I'm not going to discuss the reasons, but Ibrahim alayhi salam was prepared to, like sacrifice him. But what happened next? وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَن يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. We call to him, "O Ibrahim, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ." O Ibrahim, stop. You have fulfilled the mission, you have fulfilled the vision, you have fulfilled the commandment. Indeed, we reward the doers of good. Now, people might ask, right, why did Allah Azza wa Jal order such a terrible act, especially for a person who longed for a child, especially for a messenger? The reason is simple: to test the submission of Ibrahim alayhi salam even further, to push him to the limits. Because if you utter the testimony of faith and you tell yourself that you believe, you will be pushed and tested. And through the story, through this instance, we understand that there's always testing. But what happens next? When you're in the darkest spot in the night, when you think your test is reaching a point of no return, that is when the light of Allah Azza wa Jalla comes, and that is what we can see. When the sacrifice was about to happen, when Ibrahim alayhi salam was about to lose the son that he prayed for, Allah Azza wa Jalla calls out to him and he says, "Ya Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the vision. You have done everything. It was just a test. And here is your reward." And let's see the reward, because the reward is beautiful. إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْبَلَاءُ الْمُبِينُ. Indeed, this is a clear trial. We ransomed him with a great sacrifice. What is the reward for this? وَتَرَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. And we left him a favorable mention among the later generations. We elevated his mention. What is the proof? The proof is this very stage of it. Only because his mention was elevated that you and I are talking about today, that we are learning about him today. And that was not, there's so much more. Are we going to go through this verse? I think in Surah Safat, you can follow along because the verses to come after is truly beautiful. Salamun ala peace be upon Ibrahim. كذلك نجزي المحسنين. Indeed, we reward the good, the doers of good. And the next two verses, it contains the reward and an entire story and wisdom behind it. We're going to explore it right now. إنه من عبادنا إنه من عبادنا وبشرناه بإسحاق نبيا من الصالحين. The revolt, one of the revolts for his sacrifice, his submission, was the revolt of his son Ishaq alayhi salam, the father of the Israelites. The father of the Israelites, because scholars say almost all of the prophets, all of the messengers, excluding, some scholars excluded the prophets that we do not know of, but the main prophets, I mean almost all of them except Prophet Muhammad came from the lineage of Ibrahim, Isaac alayhi salam. And including the prophets that we do not know of, almost all of them came through the lineage of Prophet Isaac alayhi salam. But now we're about to witness something grand and beautiful. Now, I mentioned early into this session, actually one of the first things is that if you have a noble family, a noble lineage, then you will be noble in the first. If you have a family that has instilled Islamic traditions and values, whoever will come after them will inherit the values of the forefathers and the foremothers. What is this? What am I talking about? Let's take a look. The son of Ishaq alayhi salam, the son of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, the son of Ishaq alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam, and the son of Yaqub alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam. Beautiful story. So let's remember the mention of Yusuf alayhi salam when he was brought in a place where he was brought in a place and he was tested with one of the hardest thing that a male survives in, a male goes through. And this verse alone that I'm going to tell you guys about, it is a verse that personally helped a lot of people, a lot of men, a lot of people to recover from things that destroy them. And let's go through this verse. All right. Yes. Let me pull out the verse. I forgot. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت حيت لك قال معاذ إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. Why am I mentioning this verse? Let's understand. So this context goes is that the wife of I think it was a ruler or I forgot the term. In Turkish you call it takfur. I forgot the term for like a governor, yeah, governor. The governor of the place, the wife of the governor. It was in a place that she was alone with Yusuf alayhi Islam, and you know Yusuf alayhi Islam is the most beautiful man. And it went so far to an extent where the wife of the governor of Egypt at that time closed every single door of every single place and every single room. So it was her and Yusuf alayhi salam alone. No one for a mile. And at this moment, human beings we fall to pray. When the person said Yusuf, what did Yusuf alayhi salam say? قال معاذ الله إن ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. I seek refuge of Allah, indeed He is my master who has made good my residence, indeed wrongdoers will not succeed. Okay, why am I telling you this part in the first place? Why am I doing it? Yusuf alayhi salam, he inherited the quality to fight against such an oppressor who seduced him or tried to do anything bad to him. But from whom did he inherit the quality? From one of his ancestors. Who is it? The wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Sarah alayhi salam. Remember the mention in the third episode where the Sarah alayhi salam, she was taken captive by the ruler of Egypt at that time, and he tried to seduce her. What did she do? She was firm upon her deen, and she never let way to go. And she always believed in her Lord, and she remained faith. So we see the same phenomenon repeating in the generation, in the same lineage, because Sarah alayhi salam was an honorable woman, and she used good parenting tactics to Ishaq alayhi salam, which he learned from his mother, and he used it on his son Yaqub alayhi salam, who used it on his son Yusuf alayhi salam. So this is what happens. You have a noble lineage, a noble family that teaches you Islamic values. You're gonna save generations, man. And this is what I want you to understand. It is a very beautiful concept. Very beautiful. Right? So do you guys understand what I said so far? About the lineage stuff. I had to go into some detail. I had to specify some things of mine there. But if you guys understood, react to the message that I sent inside chat. Yeah, if you guys understood, I want you guys to react to the message I sent inside chat. So I know that you guys understood. Perfect. Give me a second, let me just drink some water. You guys can take a moment to understand. Because you need time to comprehend. Through time we find dimensions, and through dimensions we find meaning, yeah? Alhamdulillah. Okay. But now we move on to a different path. Because the story goes. Okay, a second. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Anyways, the story goes like, okay, now the sacrifice was done. So Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves Ismail alayhi salam for a period. Right? He goes to possibly Ilya or Palestine or Jerusalem. And Ismail alayhi salam, he stays with in Mecca with his Bani Jurham, and he stays with his mother. Sooner or later, Ismail alayhi salam marries, right? He gets a wife. And Hajar alayhi salam, she passes away. Right? She passes away. And Ismail alayhi salam is now a grown man. What happens now? And now is Ibrahim alayhi salam, he gets this desire to visit his son again, right? So Ibrahim alayhi salam arrives to visit Ismail alayhi salam. So when he came to Ismail alayhi salam's home, he knocked, and the person to come out was the wife of Ismail alayhi salam. So when the wife of Ismail alayhi salam came in, Ibrahim alayhi salam asked, "Where is Ismail? Why is this guy, this person you know called Ismail?" He did not reveal that he was the father of Ismail alayhi salam, but he asked her, "Why is this person Ismail?" And the wife of Ismail alayhi salam said, "My husband Ismail has gone in search for livelihood. Has gone in search to make a living for us." And then Ibrahim alayhi salam got curious, and then he asked the wife, "Okay, tell me about your living conditions. Tell me about your life." And the wife started to complain, and she told Ibrahim alayhi salam, "We are living in misery. We're living in hardship and destruction. We don't know what's going on anymore. Living life it's terrible for us. It's hard for us. He started complaining, and then Ibrahim alayhi salam, he thought for a while, and then he told the wife, "Okay, when your husband returns, when Ismail alayhi salam returns, convey my salutations to him, and tell my son, no, tell Ismail to change the threshold of the gate of his house." What do I mean by this? He said, "Okay, tell my son, tell Ismail to change the threshold of the gate." What does this mean? Threshold in this scenario means like a doorway to the gate. Basically, you're saying, okay, tell your husband to change the doorway to his house, or to change the gateway of his house. And then she nodded and she went back. And Ibrahim alayhi salam came back to Ilya. And then when Ismail alayhi salam came back, he felt something unusual. He felt someone's presence. So, he had this gut feeling. So so he asked his wife, okay, can you tell me if someone visited you or not? Did someone visit you? And she said, yes, an old man of such and such description. He came to me and he asked me about you. And I informed him and I told him about our state of living. And I told him about our living conditions and that we're living in hardship and poverty. And then Ismail alayhi salam, he asked, okay, did that old man give you or give us any advice? And the wife says, yes. He told me to convey his salutations to you. And then he told me to tell you to change the threshold of your gate, or to change the doorway to your gate. Immediately, Ismail alayhi salam, he realized, oh, this is my father. This is Ibrahim alayhi salam. This is my father in the flesh. And then he smiled, and then he says, and then he realized it. And then he thought, okay, what does he mean by change the threshold to my gateway, to my house? And then he understood. Allah gave him understanding of the encoded message that Ibrahim alayhi told him. And then Ismail alayhi says, okay, he tells his wife, okay, the person who visited you, it is my father. And what my father meant by threshold of the gate is that he meant that you are the threshold of my gate. You are the doorway of my gate. You are the doorway of my house. And he has ordered me to go back to your. Why? Because Ibrahim alayhi realized something about wisdom that we do. So when Ibrahim said, okay, Ismail, change the doorway to your house, what he meant by is, okay, my son, change your wife, divorce her. Something evil about his father's advice to his son. And the son, he loved his father. The result of amazing Islamic parenthood, loved his father, immediately got to know, okay, there's something bad, so I must listen to my father, so I divorced her. There are so many things we need to realize. Number one, his father was a prophet, a righteous individual, righteous family. And he always knew that there was a problem with the wife. And he always took the advice of his father before putting the wife and his desires first. Right? And then Ismail alayhi divorced her and he married another woman amongst the people of Bani Jurhum. And after some time, Ibrahim alayhi came back to Makkah again. When he came back to Makkah again, he tried to find his son, but again his son was not there. So he knocked on the door, and the wife of Ismail alayhi opened. And he asked her about Ismail alayhi. And she said, okay, where is Ismail alayhi? She said, okay, Ismail alayhi, my husband, has gone in search of our livelihood. So Ibrahim alayhi asked, okay, so how are you going on? Tell me about your living conditions. And the wife said, Alhamdulillah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are living prosperous and we are well off. We have everything in abundance. Alhamdulillah. And Ibrahim asked, okay, what kind of food do you eat? She said, we eat meat. Meat was, prestige at the time. And then he asked, okay, what do you drink? She said, we drink water. And then Ibrahim prayed to Allah. And Ibrahim said, Ya Allah, bless their meat and their water. And then Ibrahim gave some advice to his wife, to the son, the wife for his son. And he said, when your husband comes back to you, give my regards to him and tell him that he should keep firm on the threshold of his house. What does this mean? Tell your husband that he should stay, or he should hold on to the threshold of his house. He should hold on to the doorway of his. So he was kind of okay. The wife said, "Okay, interesting." And then he left. Ibrahim alayhi left, and when Ismail alayhi returned, he asked his wife again. He felt something again, and he asked, "Okay, did someone come again? Did someone visit you?" And she said, "Yes, someone did." He said, "Who came then?" "A good-looking old man came to me." And she kept on praising the old man. The feature of the old wife was that she never praised the old man. She never praised Ibrahim alayhi salam or described them, because you can see the difference between the first wife and the second wife. We're going to cover more on this on the story of Ismail alayhi salam. There's gonna a new episode will come out later, very after, inshallah. And okay, so he asked me about you, and I told him that we're living in a good condition. So Ismail alayhi salam was like, did he give you any advice? Or did that old man give you advice? She said, yes. He told me to give his regards to you, and he ordered me that you should keep firm the threshold of your gate. You should hold on to the doorway to your house. And Ismail alayhi salam, he smiled and he said, the man who visited you, the very old man that you praised, the good looking old man that you mentioned, it was my father. And you are the threshold of my gate. And he has ordered me to keep you with me. And Ismail alayhi salam accepted the order of his father. And such is the difference, such is the value that Ismail alayhi salam held. Because throughout his life, he always remained firm and he always loved his father. And he knew that his father would always give him righteous advice. And due to this fact that his father was a prophet and that his father was someone that he could trust, even though he cannot be, he's not a prophet. Let's say he's not a prophet. Even though that scenario, he's a person that I can trust. He loves me and he cares for me, so I need to listen to him. That's the etiquette of the child, to always listen to your mother and your father in good and not in evil. And this story itself is a beautiful story. So do you guys understand this part of the episode so far? If you do, then I want you guys to react to the side chat, because I want you guys to be engaged in this session. Let's react to my side chat, because I want to know if you guys are interested or not. Okay, so okay, we're gonna wait for one reaction and then okay, perfect. Okay, moving on. I'm gonna give you guys a minute, a minute to relax, a minute to chill, break. You can do whatever you want. Okay, Bismillah. Okay, okay. Now time passes by, and Ismail Islam is living his life with his wife in Mecca. And soon one day, Ismail alayhi salam sits under a tree. He sits down under a tree. Now he's a grown man, an adult, and he sits under a tree, and he starts, sharpening his arrows. Basically, the tree is. It was right next to the Zamzam river at that time, the source of Zamzam. And he was sitting under a tree next to the Zamzam, and he was sharpening his sword, his arrow basically, Just the moment where a person sits down by the water, under the shade of the tree, pondering about Allah Azza wa Jal. That's, that moment that makes us human, because, little moments like these we often enjoy. So he was enjoying his moment, and then a man walked behind or front. A man walked towards Ismail alayhi salam, and Once Ismail alayhi saw his man, he immediately recognized this man to be his father Ibrahim alayhi salam, who visited him again when he was an adult. So Ismail alayhi salam quickly stood up and he greeted him warmly. No, oh my father, right? Because look at this. Oftentimes, when our parents call us, we don't tend to visit them. We don't tend to take care of them. But his love for his father was so great that the moment he saw him, he felt the need to stand up, drop everything that he's doing to care about the well-being of his father. The respect when you see your father or your mother, you stand up, you give them the love that they deserve, rather than letting arrogance and stubbornness and laziness taking over your mind, rather than being a sloth. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam says, "Oh my dear son, Allah has given me an order." Look at this. The narration goes, the hadith goes, he did not tell him what the order was. He said, "Oh my son, Allah has given me an order." And look at the response of Ismail alayhi salam. He loved his father so much. He said, "Do what your Lord has ordered you to do." Before Ibrahim told him what the order was, Ismail alayhi salam said, "Do what your Lord ordered you to do." No hesitation, the result of ultimate submission and proper parenthood and belief given to Ismail alayhi salam and the person. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam said, "Will you help me in this task?" That is to test the submission. Because oftentimes when our parents say, "Okay, will you help me with the task?" we ask, "Okay, what task is it?" Depending on the task, I'm going to help you or not. Ibrahim alayhi salam asked, "Will you help me?" And Ismail said, "Of course, my father, I will help you. I'll definitely help you," without even asking for what the task is. Okay, who knows? What if Ibrahim says for Ismail to go to a faraway land and never come back for 100 years? The situation could be different. But Ismail was ready. And that is an act of a rightful child. That is how we should be towards our parents, in good, in emphasis in good, not in evil. We should not obey them in terms of evil, but we must show them love to the best of our abilities. Anyways, moving on. So then Ibrahim alayhi salam, he raised his hand and he pointed to a hillock, and it was higher than the land which was surrounding it. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam said, "Yeah, oh my son, Allah Azza wa Jal, subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabb al-Izzah, has ordered me to build a house here in Mecca, in the place that I'm pointing you to." And then Ismail alayhi salam definitely went in and tried to help him. And now we see a father and a child, a father and his son, helping each other to please the Creator. And this act of love and care and compassion, it is echoed for centuries to come, for until the day of judgment. Because when we see the Kaaba, we remember the stories, that we remember the mention of Abraham, and we remember the mention of Ishmael. Alayhi salatu wassalam. May Allah be pleased with them both. There's so much wisdom. So next time you look at the picture of a Kaaba or you visit the Kaaba, just remember the story and just ponder and you cry about it. Because there's nothing else that we can do. And the Prophet ﷺ added, then they raised the foundations of the house. And Ismail alayhi salam, he helped his father. How did he help him? While Ibrahim alayhi salam was building, Ismail alayhi salam brought him stones and rocks. And when the walls became higher and higher and higher, Ismail alayhi salam brought the stone and he supported his father and he gave the stone to his father. And the father, Ibrahim alayhi salam, used this stone to build on, to carry on building. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam was building and Ismail alayhi salam was handing him the stones. Right? And to understand this, when they were building, uh, there's a beautiful verse in Surah Baqarah. When they were building, they made a supplication, beautiful supplications. Right? A second. Okay, something came up. Give me like 1 second, yeah? I brought back. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Anyways, continuing on. So, when they were building, as I was saying, they made a supplication. And to understand this supplication, let's go back to Surah Baqarah, Surah of much wisdom. And Allah Azza mentions, Bismillah, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ قواعد من البيت وإسماعيل ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. And mention when Abraham or Ibrahim was raising the foundations of the house, and with him Ismail, they were both saying, O Allah, O Lord, accept this from us, accept this deed from us. Indeed, you are the hearing and the knowing. And the other supplication that comes from the next verse, رَبَّنَا وَاجْعَلْ مُسْلِمَيْنِ لَكَ وَذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً لَكَ وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. The supplication continues, Our Lord, and make us Muslims in submission, make us firm in submission to you, and from our descendants a Muslim nation in submission to you. So make us submitted to you, and from our descendants rise up a nation of Muslims, an ummah that will be in submission to you, and show us our rights and accept our repentance. Indeed, you're the accepting of repentance, the most merciful. Now, the scholars of tafsir, they say the nation that is referred to in this particular verse is a nation of you and I, the nation of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we see it today. We are the nation that is submitted. We go into Mecca, we go into the Kaaba, we do Tawaf, we do Umrah, we are more dedicated to this than other faiths. And it was established by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the interesting part is that Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he made this supplication along with his son, he considered not only his son as his son, but he also considered you and I as his children. He considered you and I as his children, and we can explore this in much deeper detail in the next episode. We're gonna tie together Prophet Muhammad sallallahu and his love for Ibrahim alayhi salam, and the love of Ibrahim alayhi salam for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Beautiful episode. And after the episode, we're gonna have the final episode. We're gonna define why he's Khalilullah, and so much more. And then we're gonna have a grand Kahoot. You guys can win amazing rewards in the Kahoot. It's gonna be like the exam, the particular lesson series of lessons. And then the most beautiful part is so grand is okay. I'm not gonna take much of your time because you don't want time. And these two verses, I think is if I remember correctly. It's okay. Let me put the words again. What? I think it's 127 and 128. Surah Baqarah was 127 and 128. So I'm gonna drop it in chat. Uh, just reflect later. Check this tafsir and ponder upon this verse because it is a verse of magnificence. The story that is relevant to this is much beautiful, the bigger picture. Now, before we end the session, before we move on to the end, we're going to go back to the beginning because the topic of parenthood. Okay, we were talking about parenthood, but we never came up It's tips of parenthood, like what we can do to establish parenthood in a practical sense. And these tips and tricks, this methodology, we learned from our father, alayhi salam. Going back, there's the five main points, five main tips, principles of parenthood that I want you guys to understand. The first principle is to understanding that children are born pure. What do I mean by this? Children are born innocent. The characteristics, the influence, whatever they learn it from you as a father or as a mother, as a parent. So it is basically like a cup. You can either fill the cup with muddy water or you can fill the cup with clean water, right? And then you drink the water. Depending on the substance of the water, the your body gets affected. That is, or you can consider it as milk. This is better analogy. Children are milk, pure white milk. If you keep it as pure, or give it the proper nutrition, put in the proper flavors, you can get chocolate milk or strawberry milk, whatever you can to satisfy your need. But if you fill it with substances that are bad, mud, for example, have you ever tried mud in milk? It's not gonna work, yeah? Never gonna work. So milk is something so pure, but it can be influenced and corrupted by what you put in it. Same thing for a child. Children are very pure. It depends on how you influence them. And we go back to the hadith that every child is born upon the fitrah. And the fitrah itself is a very interesting topic for another day. But the fitrah is what helps the person discover God, Allah Azza wa Jal, the Creator. If you want to know about this, how Ibrahim discovered Allah Azza wa Jal through his fitrah, you can check out the recordings for the early episodes. I want one of the staff members to drop the recordings of the channel where the recordings are being uploaded in SideChat. But just send it, or just unlock the SideChat because it was the end anyway. So I want someone to send it in SideChat, inshallah. But make sure that you guys don't free mix, yeah? Inshallah. So one of you guys to drop the recording of the channel or whatever is being recorded in inside chat right now. So if you guys can check out the recordings there. Bismillah. So Arqam, can you do it? Or someone, Kiano, Mariam, whoever it is. Anyways, back to topic. The first principle, understanding that children are pure. Understanding that children are born in a state of purity and whatever you do affects them. Right? And this can be explained in deeper detail. But some wisdom that I want you to gain. Okay, can someone post the link to the YouTube channel inside chat, please, as soon as possible? Okay. Like I'll do it myself. Give a second. Yeah, 1 second. Give me a second. Uh, we just spell out the Brazilians honor. What was it again? Hold on. I found it. Yeah. So you can check this YouTube channel out. Basically, the recordings are gonna go there. To understand the fitra thing that I told you about, how Ibrahim truly found it, I want you guys to check the first episode. I'll send a link to that as well inside chat. And if you guys want, you can start following up through the recordings. Episode 2, that was the initial recording. So Don't worry about it. It's a big of a deal. If you can remember, it's amazing. That's good. If you truly want to win the Kahoot, which I'm going to talk about later right now, I want you guys to watch every single video. Just get your knowledge up. Anyways, so the purity of a child, it is not only the ideologies, rather it is what you perceive. For example, you take a child and you teach the child, or you say bad words, inappropriate stuff around the child. The child will eventually start saying it unknowingly, because a child is always learning. It is a process of growth. They imitate what you do. So it is important to understand the child is pure. It is pure milk. The child is pure milk that you can't spoil at no costs. No matter what happens, you can't spoil it. Keep that in mind. And if you want, I can explain more about this later once we're done. But let's go to the next point. And the next thing that you need to understand, the second principle, is that you must understand that you as a parent, you are a guide and a role model rather than just someone in charge. You're not just someone in charge or have a duty over your child, rather you are a role person who can raise them. Think of your child as a blessing rather than just a duty or responsibility, because that will change the way you perceive things. Because in parenthood or in marriage or in everything, perspective matters. What you perceive matters. If you don't know these two, if you don't have the proper mindset, if you don't know how to perceive or just the perspective, you know the proper perspective, everything falls down to the ground and destroyed, right? So when you invest in a child, or when you have someone who looks after you, a young person, right? Okay, think of that child as a young you. Do you want your young you, a young version of you, be corrupted and be forced to the false ideologies of the world? Do you want your young you to be abused and broken? Or do you want your young you to be strong and dedicated and resilient? What do you want to do? The choice is up to you. If you want to choose the latter, then treat them as your as a blessing to you, and be a role model to them, a role model of peace. Even sometimes you fight hard battles in yourself that you can't do anything. You fight a battle so hard in your heart, in your mind. But what matters the most, the role of parenthood is to sacrifice you for the benefit of the child. Because sometimes you have to put a smile even though you're fighting the faces of battles to make your child happy. Because if the moment the child perceives you are sad, the child will become sad. You want the child to be happy, because children are such a creation where they can perceive what you're going through. They have such uh, intellect, because children are just way different. They're built different, especially the young ones. And the other thing is, okay, touching on the part of sacrifice a bit. Have you ever looked at a moment where your mother or your father, when they had the choice to do something, they sacrificed it for your own benefit? Simply put, when you had the last piece of cake, last piece of chicken nuggets, or whatever you wanted, but they sacrificed it to give it to you to make you happy. To them, your happiness mattered more than the entire world mattered. Sacrificing something simple was such easier. But in reality, your mother and your father wanted the last piece of chicken nugget, the last cake. They wanted it, but they gave it up for you to see you smile. And that is exactly what you should do to your child. Make your child happy. Give out the sacrifice things for your child. And one day they will thank you. They will, trust me. And the third principle is you need to fill them with love and kindness and mercy. Because kindness and mercy defines man, defines their future. Because if you don't teach them kindness and they don't know the value of kindness, then they will lead a life that is cold. And they will believe that people must be talked to or approached in a harsh and cold manner. They won't understand the value of kindness. They won't understand how kindness can save humanity. Rather, they understand that coldness is the only way to go. And they also understand that because whenever they go through hardship, they will force themselves to do bad things. So they'll force themselves to push themselves harder. Basically, like how do I phrase that? I'm lost for words. Just pushing yourself, just breaking yourself, just being harsh on yourself. If you don't teach them kindness, they'll continue to be harsh on themselves. It will affect them. A generational curse you can potentially. If you teach them love and kindness, they will learn to love themselves, to be kind to themselves. One reason for LGBTQ, they don't love themselves. They're insecure, so they try to uh they try to follow what other people tell them. Especially society today. Kindness to their children tells them to be kind to themselves, etc. And then much more, I'm not gonna focus on much more on a lot of things. But the next principle, the fourth principle, is to draw a line for your child. Very important. We talked about the good things. Now it's time to draw a line. If you pamper your child too much, your child is gonna be spoiled. Too much of good can always hurt a man. Mortal good. Good that is constrained to the materialistic world and to the mortal being, not to the divine being. Always make a distinction, right? So in this scenario, if you spoil your child, there's some people, there's some parents who love their child so much, they care for them too much that they don't realize that they're actually ruining their life by loving them too much. Sometimes you need to be harsh. Sometimes you need to draw the line. Sometimes give, you need to make them taste the flavor of defeat. You need to make them taste the flavor of pain, of hardship. Sometimes firmness has to be used because at the end of the day, you're not raising a child, but rather you're preparing them for society. There's sometimes that you might have been scolded. Sometimes pressure from your parents led you to insanity. Sometimes you might have gone beat, right? Gone beaten up. Just leave the beating part aside because there's sometimes we don't accept that. The intentions come. You think that they hate you, but in reality they love you. They want to prepare you for society because I'll tell you, I know a person who abused his younger brother. And the younger brother thought that he's being abused because his older brother doesn't love him. But in reality, the younger brother realized as time went on, the very person that he used to fight with became the only person that supported him. The person who beat him up and scolded him and was firm and harsh to him was the only person who showed him love and kindness when he needed it the most. Why? Because the people who do that, people who raise you, when they be harsh to you, they love you. They don't want to see society take you under. They want you to take society under. So if you feel abuse from your parents, you feel something bad from your parents right now, it comes from a good place in their hearts. But with time, you will realize their love. Just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. And always draw a line. Just practice the same thing for a child, but set some boundaries. Because without boundaries, society will be in chaos because everyone could do anything. So everyone could imitate other people's behavior. We don't want that. And what is a practical way? If you have a child, if you're gonna plan for a family, just set rules and limits for everyone in the family, including yourself. That is important. And okay, whenever you put a rule in place for your child, take some time to explain to your child why he must obey them. Because you can't just expect the child to blindly follow. You need to give and this is one thing of Ibrahim Islam used. Ibrahim Islam involved his son Ismail Islam into decision making. So, and children love the logical reasoning. They love to think. So, involve them in such decisions. Teach them and have an activity session. Like get them in and make these rules. Make the child love the rules. Because I'll tell you, there was an experiment. A young girl, adult, around 2 years old, 3 years old. She was in a room, just all toys scattered out. The father went in and said, okay, you need to get everything together. You need to empty it out. What was the first reaction? She was like, no, I don't want to do it. It's too hard. I don't want to do it. I'm too lazy. It's too much work. If you command something to your child, the first reaction is going to be no. But the other person, the other parent, what he did was, okay, he's okay, you're going to come with me, you're going to make a decision together, we're going to go on an activity together. He made the environment fun for the child. And then they took a piece of paper and then, okay, I was okay, tell me where do the toys go? Okay, in the cupboard. Where do the books go? Where do such and such go? Involved her in decision making. I loved her to think. And then she was engaged with it. And then even the process of emptying the toys and stuff, it was done in a way that the child loved. Doing this makes the child love you. Doing this allows them to expand their horizons. And if because if you don't, then they're gonna say no or rejection. Use wisdom. Always come up with something to do to your child, right? And always, if they do something good, reward them with good. Reward them with something good. Yeah, make them feel happy and wanted. And always, the other thing is don't give out big responsibilities. The fifth principle: don't give up big responsibilities or big tasks. They have a small shoulder, so give them a small weight to carry. Because only a small shoulder can carry a small weight. Only a big shoulder can carry a big weight. Give them tasks that they love, things that they feel, the things that they can do, things because if you give your child a hard thing and they can't do it, they feel demotivated to do everything else. And if you give your child small, baby-sized tasks that they can do, if they do 5 tasks successfully, then they're more prone to do this difficult task much easier. That is the mindset of children, even adults, even you and I. Make them feel accomplished and then give them the best task, the biggest task. I'm just going to summarize the 5 principles right here. I'm just going to repeat that again if you guys missed it. The top main 5. Principle number 1 is identify that, understand that children are beyond born pure. Number 2 is you need to act as a guide and role model. Number 3, you need to show them the essential of kindness and mercy. Number 4, draw a line for children, make rules and regulations. And number 5, small responsibilities for small shoulders. And we come to the end of today's session. Before we move on to the next stuff, do you guys understand this so far? How was the event so far? Do you guys understand what I said? Or do you guys understand this portion actually? If you say yes, you guys can chat in side chat. Drop a yes or no. Anyone else? You guys understand? Perfect. Okay, so tell me, how was today's event? Do you guys like today's event? It's fine, Rolex. So how was today's event? Kia and Arukam and the others. How do you guys like today's event? I'll start. Okay, I'll repeat that for you, my man. Don't worry about it. No. It's fine. But do you guys understand? Like, from the moment you joined, do you guys understand the contents from that moment onwards? From the moment you joined, there's always going to be a recording that you can use to like always listen back to. You can't expect your child to be everything. Your child has different. Everyone has different things. So, Kian, what did you understand? Alhamdulillah. So, Kian, how about you? I'm excited. What do you think about today's event? You can't listen? Okay, makes sense. Alhamdulillah for everything, though. Okay, so for those who attended the last event, there are better people who we can quote. Better people, better people. And okay, so who attended last event? Do you think today's event was much better than the last event, or was today's event much better than the events that we had previously? I want your opinion because to prepare for the next event and the other series. So do you think this event is much better than the last event, or do you think the last event was much better than? Or do you think that this event, like this particular episode, was much better than the previous ones? inshallah. If at all, what do you think? Are those people who joined? And can someone send the feedback form inside chat? Form inside chat. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you all. Okay, whatever. Okay, and inside chat, you guys have a feedback forum. It's going to help us a lot. So I want you guys to fill it, give me your honest review about today's event and previous events. Tell me how you feel. If you want more events, give us suggestions. Everything is fill it out. Okay, that's going to help us a lot. And Mariam, you can stop screen sharing this one. Give me a second. You guys have any questions about it or stuff like that? I want to take a break. If you have any questions about the event or stuff, you can ask. I'll answer. Okay. Inshallah, alhamdulillah. So what's important is we reached episode 6. You know, we're in. We went through a journey. To be honest, a journey of 6 episodes, and throughout this journey, we improved. We became better than what we were when we started the series. I can see that from every one of you and me personally as well. Yeah, okay. So this journey will soon come to an end, like everything. And we're 2 episodes away. There's going to be an episode tomorrow, same time. And then, inshallah, like to Tuesday, Wednesday, we're gonna have the final episode, and I want every one of you to join that episode because we're gonna end it with a bang, right? You got a surprise for you. We're gonna have a grand Kahoot, the final exam. So things goes like this. It's gonna have everything that you need for that, right? And the questions, the Kahoot, the questions are hard. Right? It's okay. It's easy and hard, depends. But if you attend the events and you listen and you paid attention, then you're definitely gonna be first place. So first place is gonna get a Nitro with a discount bundle for 2 of the marriage books that we have in our com. You can check it out, and a certificate of honors, right? And it has been the reason you get the certificate is approved by authorized by Abdul, a student of knowledge. May Allah bless him. So this certificate is only for the people who gets on for the person who gets first place, because you, even though you listen, you don't listen, this certificate tells you that you understood the psychological aspects and all of this stuff, and you have understood the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and you are now able to truly understand the meaning, right? And second place, Nitro and discount for 1 book, not the bundle, and a certificate of commendation, a distinction maybe. And then the third one is okay. Third place is gonna third place is a surprise for you can find it. So I was excited for tomorrow's event and the Kahoot, the grand finale. Yes, around Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay, but I might include questions from the life of Sarah alayhi salam, Hajar alayhi salam, and Ismail alayhi salam. So do your research and make sure you're excited for it. Okay. So I was excited for a grand finale, inshallah. I need activity. It is on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday. Not really sure, man. I'll let you guys know. I'll make an announcement. Alright. Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you. Wait, give me a second. Okay, Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you. Okay. Guys, yes, okay. Okay, now let's end in the meeting. Okay, so what happens now is the Kaaba is built. The entire world, entire universe until the end of time is being affected by this. But now we are about to take a different step, a step that involves the Kaaba, and a step that definitely involves the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So next episode we're connecting the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You can say it's a collaboration between the Sirah events and the Ibrahim alayhi salam events. We're going to understand the love Ibrahim alayhi salam had for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the love the Prophet Muhammad had for Ibrahim alayhi salam, and how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam loved him so much he considered Ibrahim alayhi salam to be his father. And such beautiful give a second. Beautiful things else that we're gonna discuss. I'm not gonna spoil it. Tomorrow's episode is different. We're not gonna take we're not gonna focus much on the story aspect. We're gonna focus on something really magnificent. And then inshallah the grand finale, bidnillah, amazing session as well. Anyways, I believe that is it for today's session. May Allah bless you all. We're gonna end this. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Allah bless you.